answer more questions towards the end. This topic is not about Zoom, it's about virtual lesson design. This is something that is something I'm really, really passionate about. And we'll just kind of, how many, by show of hands, maybe give me a reaction. How many of you are secondary? Give me a thumbs up. How many of you are secondary? Okay, most of us are secondary. So then Michelle and Kara, you guys are elementary. Okay. All right. So, I mean, I think for the most part, I will briefly touch on Seesaw, but then the other components and things that I'm thinking of do dive a little bit into Canvas, and then we'll kind of cycle back into like lesson design and some tools that you guys will be able to dive into. But that's kind of the plan. Okay, so the intent today is really to talk about being intentional with our lesson design. I am Nicole Carter, part of the digital curriculum crew. I have been designing virtually for, well, since 2013. I've been using a learning management system, one right after another since 2013 at least. And I've been in a one-to-one environment, flipped classroom, totally digital, paperless environment for a long time. And then as soon as I came here to the district, then I started switching a lot of that into designing PD that's virtual, right? So in some capacity or another, I've been doing a lot of like virtual design. So we're specifically talking about the engage and teaching aspect, because I don't know if you've noticed students becoming increasingly disengaged with either our Zoom online content or the stuff that we're putting into either Canvas or Seesaw. And so the idea here is that we have to shift some of our thinking into the student activities. Something that I've noticed as somewhat of an outsider to Beaverton School District, because for the most part, my classroom instruction was in a different school district. When I came here, was still kind of in the heyday of Teacher Source, and I didn't really understand Teacher Source. I'm going to be full honest with you. I didn't understand it because it was so teacher facing. It was lesson design or lesson plans for teachers, and it was often missing a lot of the student components. And I had been so knee deep at that point into creating assignments and things for the students to pass back and forth online in Canvas. And so I think there is a dramatic shift that has to happen when we stop thinking about maybe our teacher slide deck and start thinking about what does it look like from a student's perspective to interact with this content. So this is not an assignment from anyone in our school district. I went into the Canvas Commons and found this. It's a math quiz, but I'm just curious if in the chat, you guys can just give me some observations of what you see here in this assignment. If you're putting your CDL hat, student hat on, if you were a student sitting at home alone, going through content, and this is again a Canvas assignment, but if you're going through content, is this engaging? What do you notice? Yeah, Susan, you're kind of hitting the nail on the head there. What other things are you seeing? Yeah. I mean, kind of think about our students. For better or for worse, they are these like digital natives. They are consumers. More often than not, they're passive consumers, but they are consumers of really high quality content. And I say that with a little grain of salt, but if you think about the content that's being created on YouTube, you think about the content being pushed out through Instagram or even TikTok, the editing, thought process, branding, the stuff that's out there for our students to consume is pretty high quality. So when they enter our classrooms and they see something like this, it is drastically different than what they normally are consuming. And I'm not saying that we have to, I'm not saying that we have to go into like major production value here, but teachers are designers. We are graphic designers. And so what are some tips and tricks that we can do to make things a little bit better? And I will say this, for our friends that are using Seesaw, Seesaw makes it a little bit easier. And we have to put a little bit more work into Canvas, I think. But a couple of things for us to kind of think about. And Susan was kind of hitting the nail on the head here. Visuals. For the first 12 years of my teaching career, I had a black and white copy machine that I had access to, and that was it. I didn't have a color copier. So I lived in a black and white world. So as soon as I started shifting my focus into thinking about the fact that I was in a digital environment and my stuff did not have to be black and white anymore, it was like a rainbow of color opened up, right? The other thing to think about is that you do have access in almost every single one of our platforms to be able to include lots of colors, lots of pictures, GIFs, videos, all sorts of things to make your content more enjoyable. Now, as I'm kind of delivering this content to you right now, I am keeping in mind the readability of my font, and I am using some black and white font on my screen for you right now. But when it comes to what I design for students, I definitely take into account my font and my color choices. I really highly suggest that we use our faces as much as possible and or our voices as much as possible when we're doing lesson design. In both Seesaw and Canvas, it is so easy to use your teacher webcam to record yourself reading the instructions. If you have lots of directions and instructions, take some time and just do a little record where you're reading through those instructions. I guarantee your students will watch the video of you reading the instructions versus actually reading through the text on the screen. And then I also think we need to be really clear about our instructions, especially here at the beginning of the year. Many of our students have not done digital turn-in like what we're asking them to do right now. So the more clear we are in how to use their Chromebooks and their keyboards and how to turn stuff in either Seesaw and Canvas, the better. And again, Seesaw makes that really easy because they have kind of this embedded programming to make sure that we see all of the same symbols that the students see. And instead with Canvas, we have to take a more proactive approach to give those instructions to the kids. As Susan was saying in the comments, less text, larger font. Susan, you hit the nail on that right away. I immediately in Canvas will go in and change the font to like size 14, size 18 font. I want it to be nice and big. Also on Canvas, it does a word count in the bottom left-hand corner of your editing screen. So you can even pay attention to your word count and kind of, make sure that you're not putting too much verbiage into your instructions. And then also kind of think sometimes, they have their little Chromebook screen, and sometimes when we give them vertical things, it's easier for them when we give it to them in a horizontal layout. So those are things we don't necessarily think about all the time, but something to kind of like, are you constantly going back and forth between what you're seeing as a teacher versus what they see as a student, and keeping in mind their little tiny Chromebooks? And I know we don't always have a Chromebook available to us to see it from their perspective, but as long as you're keeping that in your mind, I think that ultimately helps. And, again, when you're creating something, whether it's in Seesaw or Canvas, I doubt we would ever open up a Google Doc and type, write your writing goals here. Type that out in 12-point font, Times New Roman, print it, and then walk down to the copy machine and make 180 copies and slap it on the desk of our students, right? We would want to make that a little bit more engaging. And so it should be the same when we're creating things within Canvas as well. So as I was kind of talking about briefly with Seesaw, it does kind of make us work our activities a little bit differently by giving us making sure we get the goal of the activity in there, what materials the students might need. It does, as you see for that section 3, the clear steps with the icons that the kids would see as well. Like, that's kind of embedded already in the Seesaw activities, and Canvas just quite frankly doesn't do that. So we have to do a little bit more work. But I think anytime that you can take the time to add in your video demonstration, your voice demonstration within Seesaw, all of that is really good things. We've also been hearing a lot from the community when thinking about students that are asynchronously getting into our content, that the directions should be nicely labeled in there for students to be able to go through the lesson without necessarily having to go back and watch a 45-minute Zoom class. So are we making sure that we're giving standalone instructions within the activities themselves versus just relying heavily on the Zoom activity? in terms of Canvas, because again, I have a lot of people in here that are secondary. As I'm creating in Canvas, there's a couple of questions that go through my mind as I start to create. I always ask myself, what is it that I want to give to the kids? Chris always says audience, task, purpose. So if I know that I want the students to just consume information and they don't really have to do anything with it, they don't have to turn anything in, then I'm going to build a page in Canvas with all of the content. But if I need them to show what they know, then I'm thinking in terms of the assignment, discussion, or quizzes. If I think it's important that they get feedback from just me, the teacher, and we don't necessarily need to build community, then I'm just doing an assignment. If I think that they might benefit from maybe working with a partner, an elbow partner, I might do an assignment where I set up a peer review. A peer review can be done where it just automatically assigns a peer to them, or you can manually pick what student you want to work with what student. That might be something that, again, is maybe it's content that's more vulnerable, or you really just want a one-on-one interaction. But if you feel like a community interaction would be better, where they have more than one person going back and forth, then Canvas discussions is where you would want to go. I use Canvas discussions more than I use anything else. I think they're the #1 product within Canvas for us to use, but we have to be really intentional when we decide to use the discussion. For you as a teacher, I always would recommend making it a graded discussion. Even if you don't actually grade it, it just gives you the ability to see all of the submissions by student instead of having to scroll through the long feed. So it just makes it easier and more efficient for you as the teacher if you check the box for graded discussions. And then you have to ask yourself, do I want the kids to talk back and forth to each other? And if I do, then I need to put that into my instructions. So I usually always will do step 1, step 2, step 3 when I do discussion. Step 1 is answer the prompt. Step 2, I want you to read through 2 peers and use these sentence frames to respond to their question. And I will give them that information. Step 3, I want you to go back and like 3 of your peers' responses or whatever. I'm really clear about what I want them to do. If I don't have them doing the like and response option, then a discussion just becomes a writing prompt and they aren't interacting with each other. So something to think about. The quizzes feature in Canvas, they're going to be launching a brand new quiz interaction piece. I never used quizzes that often in a humanities classroom. But I know that it's an option. And I know our math and our science people use formative a lot embedded within Canvas too. So those are all really good choices. But when it comes to breaking it down in Canvas, this is a version from Canvas, a session that I created for like an SEL lesson for elementary, actually. And at the top, I've got the directions. I've got an embedded video. I've got step-by-step instructions on exactly what they need to click. This is what it looks like from your screen. Click here, respond here, use these sentence frames, and hit post reply. So I'm giving them very clear navigation instructions also. If it's a static image, great. You could also do little movies or little GIFs, and all of those would work too. And then as I talked about the user experience, they're tiny little Chromebook screens. Now our elementary students have the older version, our secondary have a slightly larger screen with the stylus, which is really great. My daughter's a 7th grader. She really loves the new Chromebooks. But knowing how to interact with the Chromebooks, I know that's really hard. Kristen, can you find the Chromebook Simulator and throw that in the chat? It's in our playbook. Thank you. I know we don't always have a Chromebook to use and to be able to like model for the students, but we have found, I've found using a image of their keyboard screen can be really helpful, where I just circle or highlight the different buttons that I want them to push. And then I can't remember if it was Kristen or Jen, someone on our team found this Chromebook Simulator that will walk you through as a teacher what it looks like as they're trying to find and use things, which can be also super, super helpful. But I think just remembering, you know, kids, I need you to hit this little button. I showed it to you on the screen here. And I forget, every school has a different way of calling it, but this little screen button allows them to jump between different windows. So if you have them open in a window for Zoom, but you want them to jump into a tab for Canvas, they hit that little button and jump into Canvas. Zoom is still going in the background, but now they're in Canvas. And using that in your Zoom windows makes it easy too, but also in your lesson design. Now, in the chat, I might have Kristen give you this as well, but it's linked in the slide deck. Oh, I want the actual, can I open the editor? Yes, okay. This is like a really sloppy, messy slide deck that my coworker Carrie and I used when we were creating instructions in some writing curriculum that we made. So these are all just us going into Canvas and turning on student view, where Canvas allows us to see what the students might see. And we just take screenshots and then we just add arrows and we're just editing here within this messy Google slide deck. And then as we add our arrows and things, we'll take a screenshot of that and put it back into the lesson design so that it's nice and clear and easy for the kids to know exactly what buttons to push. So it's not pretty, it's just, you know, that's our workflow. Okay. And then the other thing to think about when you're building with modules, so this is, I think, like a level 2 ask from the Canvas agreements, but you have the ability to use text headers. I've seen teachers using emojis in their texts, which also helps identify certain things for kids. I'm not one that would say we should have the kids moving through modules. I don't necessarily think it's developmentally appropriate, but I know some teachers use the modules that way. You also can see really quickly from the module view what assignments you're using. And so a tip or trick for us as teachers, as you look through, do you see lots of different little icons? Meaning you're using lots of discussions and assignments and quizzes and lots of varying ways to have your kids interact in Canvas, or are they all just assignments? And that's one way to engage them a little bit more. Toss in a different way for them to engage with your curriculum and instruction. And then this is just, I'm a person that even though I use all the tech, I use all the things, I love paper stuff too. And I really have to brainstorm out how I put modules together, how I put curriculum together. This was a PD I was making for teachers, but I very clearly start to plan out and think, what do I want what do I want my students, in this case teachers, to do first, second, third, fourth? What does it look like? Is it a page? Is it a discussion? Is it a quiz? Is it an assignment? What are the pieces I need on there? And then I'm a person that loves checklists, right? To-do lists. And so I just check off things as I make them and do them. But this helps me organize before I start building in Canvas. I storyboard it out. My coworker, Carrie, likes to do a more digital version. And what she does here is she tells herself what she's made so that she can then go and copy and paste and not have to reinvent the wheel. Meaning if she uses the same kind of instructions for a discussion, like I said before, like number 1, answer the prompt. Number 2, respond to your peer with a thread, you know, using these sentence stems. And number 3, like whatever. If you already did that built out in a different discussion, you can just go and copy and paste it into a new discussion. You don't have to retype everything out. And so this is helpful for her so she knows where she can go to copy and paste. I constantly will duplicate my tabs in Canvas as I'm building so that I can do that copy and paste piece. Just know that if you copy and paste from one Canvas course into a different Canvas course, you will lose your images. It's okay if you do it within the same course, but you will lose images. The images won't show up if you go completely outside of the course. I've done that so many times, so I just want to make sure I reference that. Okay, so as I said before, you are graphic designers, whether you realize it or not. This is a button that takes you to a page that talks a little bit about things that educators can do as graphic design. I think it's really, really helpful. And so you can dive deeper into that if you want to. Okay, so some things to do to get some images. I mentioned in an earlier session today how helpful Bitmoji, the extension is. There's an emoji extension. This Joy Pixel is an emoji extension that I use all the time. Giphy as an extension literally allows you to just drag and drop fun little GIFs into whatever you're doing. And so let me just show you that really quickly. Let's do like a blank page. Why not on this thing? So my Bitmoji extension, I don't have to go anywhere else. It's right here. I just copy the image and paste it right away into my deck. Or I can paste it right away. I can do a screenshot of this and then add that, upload that into my Canvas course. I wouldn't want to copy and paste into Canvas because you never know when you might lose that image. You want to make sure you upload it. This Joy Pixel is the emoji. So all I have to do is touch it. And then I can, you know, paste it into a text box and use that. And then the Giphy extension allows me to just drag and drop any kind of GIF if you just give it a moment. There you go. So those are 3 extensions. They're all linked on here so that you can add those to yours. These 2 are new to me, and I want to show you this amazingness. So this is a way for you to type any word, click go, and it will give you all of these different fun fonts. They do show up as just like an image. It's not like a font, if that makes sense. But then you get these fun, and so that's what both of those are. Text Giraffe and Flaming Text are the same thing. Unsplash is one of my absolute favorite places. Oops, go back. Unsplash, if you haven't ever checked that out, these are just really high quality free images that you can download and use. And I use these all the time on my Canvas pages. So like I was using something yesterday where I used this image, for example. So these are all free to use. You just click this button here and say download, and it just downloads straight to your computer. So lots of great options there in terms of just finding stuff to add. In terms of using slides where you might be sharing content to your students, I can't say enough good things about both Slides Mania and Slides Go. Slides Carnival is an older one that I've been using for several years, but I actually think that the content on Slides Mania is the best right now. Let's see if it, just as an example to show you. So these are all just free templates for you to use as a Google slide. You just make a copy and you're ready to go. So you would just say, yeah, I want that. And you can download it as either a PowerPoint or Google Slides. And you would just open up one you want and say, use template. How cute are those? Right? So Slides Mania and Slides Go, I think, are better right now than Slides Carnival, but all 3 are free and work the exact same way. If you're interested in trying like digital journals or whatever, Slides Mania and Slide Go already has ready to go journals that you can use that are amazing. This one gets into the weeds just a little bit, but they're some of my favorite things. So I probably use ColorPick Eyedropper more than any other extension ever. And what it does is it's an extension right here that just allows me to, I click this little button and then I drag it anywhere I want and I get the hex code for that color. And now I have that custom color that I can then put into Canvas, put into Google Slides or whatever. So I would just touch and copy that. And now it's on my clipboard and I could go into this student directions. Let's just say I want that little color in this box. I just hit this custom color, paste in the code, and now I have that custom color. So that's this ColorPick Eyedropper. Now this other page here, this colors, it's a weird word. And I have it right here as a bookmark. basically it's this fun website that just gives you color palettes. So if you're looking at a white screen and you don't know how to, you know, change it up and maybe give your home screen on Canvas a new look, you can just develop these color palettes and just say, explore, give me a different one. And it will just keep popping up with like-minded colors that you could potentially use together. And then this one is new to me. This is where you might find a picture. Say you find a picture on Unsplash. You can then upload that picture here and it will give you the colors that are most prominent in the image. So again, so you're kind of combining two different pieces to give you, you know, a high quality result at the end. A lot of these last tips and tricks I found from Nadine's slide deck that I gave you here. So if you wanted to go into more detail with that, you can find it there. The template that I talked about using in Canvas, it's hyperlinked here. You just would need to go into the comments to grab it. And then I do have this Canvas course that you can jump in and be a student and kind of, you know, putz around in it. It's based off of some behavior management SEL work. Let me find it. Hold on. Oh, it's this one. And I think the only thing with this one is that I was trying to show in a different session I did how you can use station rotations with Zoom. And some of these, I can't remember which one. Okay, so for this one, I used the audio record feature in Canvas to read through the instructions. So I'm not doing my face, it's just me recording my voice, reading the instructions. And then I did a different version. It's not this one. I think it's this next one. This one is where I used the video record and I recorded my face walking through, this is what I want you to do on this assignment. So those are listed here if you wanted to join that course and poke around. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and just